There comes a time in the life of every nation when its quiet resilience roars like thunder across the globe, a time when the dreams of its people, long buried under the weight of history and injustice, rise and demand to be seen, not in protest, but in performance. Today, I stand before you not to warn, but to witness, not to ask if the world is ready, but to declare, the world woke up too late. India has already taken over, not through the sword, but through the spirit. Not by conquest, but by contribution, not with arrogance, but with innovation, intellect, and an indomitable will. We are not here to fear this change. We are here to learn from it, to ask ourselves, why did we take so long to see what was rising before our eyes? Let this moment not be one of regret, but of realization. For in recognizing the rise of India, we recognize the rise of a billion hopes and a future that belongs not to one nation, but to all of us who dare to believe in unity, dignity, and progress. India's rise was never a sudden phenomenon. It was a long time in the making, shaped by centuries of resilience, philosophy, and quiet ambition. What the world is witnessing today is not a surprise for those who have followed India's journey closely. From ancient civilizations that gave the world the concept of zero, yoga, and profound spiritual teachings, to a post-colonial nation that rose from economic despair, India has walked a path that was difficult but determined. Every setback became a lesson, every challenge a step forward, while the world focused its gaze elsewhere, on louder economies or dominant powers. India was rebuilding itself from within, investing in education, technology, space, medicine, and its most powerful asset, its people. For decades, India was seen as a land of potential, often reduced to clichés and stereotypes. But underneath that image was a country transforming with quiet intensity. It built one of the largest democratic systems in history, embraced digital transformation on a scale never seen before, and nurtured a generation that grew up dreaming not just of survival, but of global impact. While the world's attention drifted, India became the pharmacy of the world, the IT hub of the digital age, and the cradle of a young, ambitious population ready to lead. This rise did not come from conquest, but from contribution. It came through persistence, not propaganda. It came from a belief deeply rooted in Indian thought, that true power lies in service, in growth with dignity, and in lifting not just oneself, but others. The truth is the signs were always there. India was always going to rise, not by overpowering, but by inspiring. The world simply woke up too late to recognize that the future had already changed. India's journey to global prominence was never driven by noise or domination. It was a silent struggle, long and often overlooked. For decades, while many nations took the spotlight through military might or aggressive diplomacy, India moved forward with patience, building its strength one step at a time. It carried the weight of colonial scars, poverty, and division, yet continued to rise. Through its democracy, its spirit of unity in diversity, and its relentless pursuit of progress. This struggle was not always visible to the outside world, nor was it always acknowledged, but it was constant, persistent, and deeply rooted in the hopes of over 1 billion people who refused to be defined by history's injustices. At times, the world measured India through outdated lenses, judging it by its challenges, not its capabilities. But beneath the surface, there was a transformation taking place, a cultural, educational, and economic revolution that was reshaping not just cities, but mindsets. The children of farmers became engineers, the daughters of laborers became scientists, and voices once silenced began to speak with confidence. Through every trial, whether economic sanctions, geopolitical pressure, or internal challenges, India chose not to retreat, but to evolve. It moved from survival to strategy, from imitation to innovation. On the global stage, India did not demand a seat, it earned one. Through its contributions in science, peacekeeping, and global cooperation, it quietly established itself as a force to be respected. When the pandemic struck, India sent medicines across continents. When the world sought talent, India offered minds sharpened by both struggle and brilliance. This was not an overnight success, nor a result of chance. It was the outcome of decades of effort that went unnoticed by many, but never stopped by doubt. The rise was not marked by a dramatic revolution, but by a disciplined awakening. It was the world that blinked, and when it opened its eyes again, India was no longer knocking at the door. It was already inside, shaping the future of technology, economics, culture, and diplomacy. The global order is now being rewritten, not with force but with quiet determination. India's greatest strength has never been in its wealth of resources or size alone, but in the power of its human potential, especially its youth, its innovation, and its mastery of technology. In a world increasingly defined by digital revolutions and rapid transformation, India has not only caught up, it has surged ahead. With one of the youngest populations on earth, the country stands as a dynamic force in motion. These young minds, driven by dreams and sharpened by adversity, are building the future with code, creativity, and courage. They are not waiting for the world's permission. They are already redefining industries, creating startups, leading global companies, and solving problems that affect billions. Innovation in India has never been about luxury. It has always been about necessity. From developing low-cost healthcare solutions, launching space missions at a fraction of the global cost, India has shown the world that ingenuity can thrive even without unlimited resources. The success of missions like Chandrayaan and the rise of digital platforms like UPI are not just national achievements. They are global case studies in doing more with less and doing it better. The rest of the world, often surprised by these milestones, fails to realize that this ability to innovate under pressure is deeply woven into the Indian mindset. It's a spirit that says, if the path doesn't exist, build it. Technology has become the great equalizer in India. The government and private sector together have empowered millions through digital access, online education, and mobile banking. Villages that once lacked basic infrastructure are now connected to the digital economy. Entrepreneurs from remote corners of the country are launching apps, entering global markets, and attracting international investment. It is no longer just the metros that are rising. It is Bharat, the heart of India, stepping into the digital age with confidence and ambition. The country's tech industry has become one of the most influential in the world, not only because of its scale but because of the minds driving it. Indian origin CEO now leads some of the world's biggest technology companies, not by accident, but by consistent excellence. And back home, a wave of homegrown innovation is transforming every sector, from education and healthcare to agriculture and finance. India's youth are not burdened by the past. They are inspired by the future. They are building a nation that doesn't wait for opportunities. It creates them. What sets this movement apart is not just the volume of talent, but the values that guide it. The innovators are not just chasing profit. They are building platforms that serve, tools that heal, and solutions that uplift. The rise of India is being powered not just by minds, but by meaning. This generation understands that technology without purpose is noise, but technology driven by values, that is revolution. India's influence on the world stage has never been confined to economics or technology alone. It has always extended deeply into the realms of culture, philosophy, and moral leadership. Long before it became known for its IT hubs or space missions, India was already shaping the conscience of the world. It gave humanity ideas of nonviolence, inner peace, tolerance, and the search for truth. From the teachings of the Vedas to the message of Mahatma Gandhi, India has led not through power, but through principle. That influence is now more relevant than ever in a fractured, vast, moving world searching for meaning and connection. Today, when global societies face divisions along racial, religious, and political lines, India's centuries-old tradition of unity in diversity stands as a powerful example. Here is a nation of over 1 billion people, hundreds of languages, dozens of religions, and countless traditions, yet held together by a common identity that values coexistence over conflict. This is not a small achievement. It is a profound cultural success that deserves to be studied, respected, and, where possible, emulated. India's cultural power doesn't come from dominance, it comes from depth. Its music, cinema, spirituality, cuisine, literature, and philosophy have quietly seeped into the fabric of other nations, not through force, but through fascination. Bollywood films are watched from Cairo to Cape Town, from London to Lagos. Yoga studios line the streets of New York, Berlin, and Sydney. Indian festivals like Diwali and Holi are celebrated in homes and cities far beyond its borders. But this cultural spread is not just about entertainment or aesthetics. It carries a deeper resonance. It shows the world an approach to life that balances ambition with humility, progress with mindfulness, and growth with gratitude. These values are not just cultural, they are civilizational, and they offer something rare in today's global discourse: moral clarity without arrogance. India's spiritual heritage continues to influence global conversations on wellness, sustainability, and human purpose. In a world driven by materialism, India reminds us of the value of stillness. In a time defined by noise, it teaches the strength of silence. And in an age of division, it offers the power of compassion. Whether through the global appeal of the Bhagavad Gita or the simplicity of Gandhian ethics, India speaks to the conscience, not just the intellect. This form of soft power has positioned India uniquely in global diplomacy as well. It can mediate between East and West, North and South, tradition and modernity. It is trusted not because it imposes its will, but because it understands multiple worldviews. It does not lecture, it listens, and that, in a world increasingly fatigued by conflict and ego, is leadership of the highest kind. The rise of India is not a threat, it is an opportunity. For far too long, global powers have viewed emerging nations through the lens of competition and fear, as if progress in one corner of the world must come at the expense of another. But India's ascent tells a different story. It is not built on domination or exclusion, but on cooperation and contribution. As India grows, it extends its hand, not in conquest but in partnership. It is building bridges where others are building walls, and offering collaboration where others offer conditions. This is not just a shift in geopolitics, it is a shift in philosophy, one that recognizes that the success of one can empower the many. India's foreign policy and economic strategy reflect this inclusive vision. From regional alliances like the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation to broader global platforms such as BRICS and the G20, India consistently promotes multilateralism and dialogue. It does not seek to overpower its neighbors, but to uplift them through trade, technology sharing, and mutual respect. The idea is simple yet revolutionary in today's world. When we rise together, we rise stronger. And in this shared progress, India does not impose its identity. It encourages each nation to grow on its own terms. In technology, too, India offers platforms that others can build upon. Its digital public infrastructure, like the Aadhaar identity system and UPI payments network, are being shared with other countries not for profit, but for empowerment. India's vaccine diplomacy during the COVID-19 pandemic is a recent and striking example. At a time when many countries hoarded medical supplies, India sent millions of doses to countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. This wasn't charity, it was solidarity. It was a reminder that leadership is not about how much you control, but how much you contribute to others' well-being. As a global power, India understands that true strength lies in trust. Trust is earned through consistent values, transparent governance, and a willingness to solve problems that affect the world at large. Climate change, cybersecurity, terrorism, and economic inequality. India does not claim to have all the answers, but it offers a model rooted in democracy, diversity, and dignity. These are values the world desperately needs, not just to survive the future, but to shape it with wisdom and compassion. India's role in the new world order is not to replace one dominant power with another. It is to challenge the very idea that power must be a zero-sum game. Instead of seeing India's rise as a rival's gain, the world must recognize it as humanity's win. A win for pluralism, for peace, for partnership. This is not the time to isolate rising voices. It is time to listen to them, work with them, and learn from them. Because in this new era, global leadership will not come from control, but from cooperation. And India is already leading that change.